Hi, we're Chris and Ashley, and we are marriage surviving sexual addiction and infidelity. It has been a
A
long,
long time.
a long time,
A while.
a long time since we have done a video. These are crazy times for everybody. My husband has not slowed down at all during this pandemic, and he's getting his master's and working a ton of jobs. So it's been so hard to get together. Plus, like, when there's not a lot of comments or questions coming in, sometimes we run out of, like, we already kind of
Ideas.
feel a little bit like a broken record.
It's just easier answering questions. How about that?
Yeah, it is. And we say a lot of the stuff we say, we kind of realize is kind of the same things, but every once in a while we get a new comment or a new suggestion. And I have been feeling for months that I wanted to get on here and make a video because we get the question all the time.
Most frequent.
Are you really happy? Like, that is the question we get all the time. Are you really happy? And I have so many thoughts that start off with this, but I kind of want to turn it over to my husband first because that's one of a big trigger for me in this topic, because Chris did tell a lot of those women that he was very unhappy. And when it all came out, he told me he was unhappy. So I would love to hear his thoughts about, are you really happy? Are you guys really happy in your marriage? And are you really happy as a question in and of itself?
Yeah, sure. So the question, are you happy, is asked as if, like, how is that possible? Which I think is, so I think obviously couples that might be going through this in the early stages, the initial stages, because I know that this was kind of how it was for us in the early stages, is how does anyone survive this? Like,
Yeah.
how does a marriage survive this? Is it possible to ever be happy again, or is it happy to be on the same page, or not have every conversation we ever have be centered around everything that's happened, the addiction, the betrayal, etc. And again, the broken record thing here is, yeah, just it's time. It takes a lot of time. But so for me as an addict, yes, I had this idea in my mind that I wasn't happy because as an addict, when I'm acting out on something, I'm looking for an excuse as to why I would do that. And inevitably, it would always come back to, like, some type of an entitlement, some type of I'm not getting what I deserve or what I want, and so I'm seeking it elsewhere type thing. That must be because I'm unhappy. And so, as an addict, you look for the reason why you're not happy, and you tell yourself you're not happy. The reality of it is that as an addict, I'm unhappy because I'm doing things that are harmful to me. They're harmful to my spouse. They're harmful to my family. They're not things that I want to be doing, and yet I'm doing them. And so, that's the addict. But then I'm always going to be an addict. It's taken time to realize that, and 6 years into this now, that still continues to be the case. If I get stressed out with work, if I have a lack of sleep, whether it's from work projects or whether it's the fact we have 4 children, which is stressful, children that don't sleep, etc., whatever it might be, I still have to understand what my emotions are. As an addict, my stress reliever has been unhealthy things. And I would imagine that that's probably fairly similar to different types of addicts, whether it's alcohol, drugs, whatever it might be, to where it's like when the stress comes and whatnot, there's that feeling of wanting to go to, and therefore I'm unhappy right now, and if only I could just. So I have to constantly evaluate where I am on a stress level, an addiction level, etc., and understand I might be seeking things that make me unhappy in that case. So am I happy? Yeah, happier than I've ever been in my entire life. Because truth is out there, and I'm not trying to bury or hide a secret life, which is miserable.
And keep in mind, like he says, 6 years. I mean, that's 6 years of me finding out, but this isn't. I mean, this is an entire lifetime for him of hiding things since he was 5 years old. So when he says the truth is out, I mean, how relieving that would be.
That's 6 years of starting our journey together.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean 6 full years of sobriety. That doesn't mean 6 years of being, completely changed, because again, stress levels. I mean, I struggle with things all the time and have to recognize what am I really wanting? What do I really need? So I still suck at communication. That's a constant work.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think it's something that can always be worked on, and I think communication can come easier for others. It definitely comes a lot easier for me to communicate. But I think there's been leaps and bounds of improvement, but it's something that is still very difficult for you to process. Sure. Like from what I witness, sometimes it's really hard for you to not go back into addict brain and to go into a little bit of sometimes absolutes or sometimes different things that make a reality. They say addiction can fry the cerebral cortex, the common sense and different things like that sometimes what I see would be so easy to communicate is actually legitimately very difficult for him to communicate on.
Yeah. Well, so on that note, like the absolutes, I think and when I say we, I mean, people, I think we try and put absolutes on like everything. We try and define everything. So it's like, are we happy? Absolutely. Does that mean that we don't have bad days? And I don't just mean the normal stresses of life, kids, etc., jobs, whatever it might be. But do I feel urges? Do I feel my addiction bubbling up? Yes. Does it make me miserable? Absolutely. Does that mean I'm miserable? No, not unless I give way to it. I'm not going to be miserable, permanent, long term, if I'm communicating, if I'm seeking to work through it. Does that mean that Ashley doesn't feel pain for what I've put her through? Of course not. So we want to. I think we put these absolutes that are like, to be happy, it's as if it never happened or it's completely forgotten, and I think realizing that is the key. It was key for us to understanding that our happiness is not centered around the fact that we can't ever feel pain regarding this. We can't ever talk about this. I mean, we're talking about it now, which is extremely helpful to me.
Yeah.
But is it still painful talking about it? Yeah, because I recall everything I've done.
Yeah.
But I'm happy.
There's lots of, like he was saying, like the absolutes and stuff. And I see a lot of couples who put destinations on happiness.
And that's exactly what I used to do.
Destinations on forgiveness or moving forward, or like if you hit the year mark from finding out, it's like, okay, well, we're still married. So that's when we've made it. If we've made it through the first year, then we've made it. If we make it to this, then we're okay. And then like even some people that are close to you will say like, oh, well, you made it there. So like, aren't you so glad that it's over? Or aren't you so glad that it's done and you guys don't have to talk about it or worry about it anymore, or different things like that. There's no destination, unfortunately, on this, but there is time that heals, that helps us to process things a little bit more healthy. So like he said, there's still the addiction that bubbles. Like there's still, so what once was, if he's unhappy with our physical life, if he's unhappy with our intimacy, then he was unhappy with me. He was unhappy with our marriage. He was unhappy with our sex life. That all happened. Now, because let's be honest, that is going to always be something in a lot of marriages, either one or the other. Sometimes that physical piece can sometimes be a lot more prevalent in one of the spouses as opposed to the other, and for Chris, that's still very much so there. And by no means is it ever, on purpose that the other spouse doesn't fulfill those needs or whatever you want to call it. We have 4 young kids. We have no time. There's lots of things that pile in. But now, and I don't want to speak for him, but now, like, I see a total different side for Chris. I'm unhappy. If the physical needs aren't being met, I don't see such an absolute, well, then I'm unhappy with you. I'm unhappy with our marriage. I'm unhappy with the sex life. What would you say you feel now?
Do I get grumpy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I, again, there's still wants, there's still desires, unhealthy or not.
Yeah.
Even the healthy desires still aren't met all the time, whatever our healthy desires are. And so do I get grumpy, upset, on edge, tense? Yes. But now I can separate that and go, okay, I'm struggling with this. I want this, not, okay, I'm unhappy.
Yeah.
Period. Black and white. I'm unhappy, so you're the reason.
Yeah.
I'm entitled to something I'm not getting. Like that's how, as an addict, I would think. Her destination thing, spot on. That's exactly how I was. Like, okay, well, once, it's a year, once it's 2 years, whatever it is, put whatever on it, then we're going to be good. No, that's unfortunately not the way it is. Mm-hmm. It took some time. It took some counseling. It took seeing Ashley and going, well, wait a minute, it's been a while.
Yeah, like when he would think that we would be better, that things would be greater. We've made it through the rough part when X, Y, or Z happens, and I was still in pain. That's like, kind of eye-opening.
This doesn't just disappear.
There's no destination that makes this go away.
And I guess on the same, people will ask, are you really happy? We'll also get the people that are like, oh, that's amazing. Like, you're so happy. Yes, we are.
So it's
but
over.
But they almost say it as if like, so it's like not even like,
so you've forgiven each other and you've moved completely past it.
Like you never talk about it. You never feel pain. No. And
which, to be fair, like if you haven't been through it, I can understand why maybe you would think that or say something like that, or even at the beginning stages hope for something like that, because we have made a ton of progress. So for my part, right, I always sat there and thought at the beginning it was just so painful. It was just brutal, and I just remember after the first couple months and the shock wearing off and all that kind of stuff, sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be happy again. Like, I am just going to endure the rest of my life. Like, I'm not willing to get divorced. I don't, that never felt right. But I'm like, how can it not feel right if I feel so just unhappy, like just a zombie, and like I'm just here and we're gonna just be roommates and we're gonna stay together for the kids or whatever. Like there's so many emotions, and I really started to kind of settle into a pattern of, I guess this is my new normal. And and that's the other thing, people want a timeline or they want, some kind of fix it or whatever. And that didn't come. All I can say is, again, this broken record comment that we both put in the work. And because we both continued to work and we both put in the work, then there was a lot of safety created in that in our marriage. And then in that safety came little by little trust and repair and different things, to the point where one day I was able to just kind of look at my husband and feel lucky again and feel happy again and feel like, oh, I'm so glad that I'm married to him, you know? And I remember sitting there staring. He was in the kitchen, I was in our living room, and I remember just staring at him being like it was such an overwhelming feeling. And I know it's going to be different for everybody, but it was such an overwhelming feeling because I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought that I was going to have this back. I never thought that I was going to feel this way about him again. Feel lucky, feel happy, feel so glad that we're married. Like, love him? Yes. I mean, love never went away. There were some things that needed to definitely be earned back. But loving him was easy, but like the happy feelings were like, I really truly thought I was going to endure our marriage and just kind of stay together to stay together. And then it just turned into such a happy thing. And that did come from, it came from a lot of work. It came from healing. It came from time. It came from all those factors that are there. But it also came from, like, I think I also made up my mind of the point where it's like, I don't want to just endure life. Like, a lot of it was mental. Like, I had to get to the point where it's like, I want to be happy again. If I'm going to make the decision to stay, and if we're going to work on this, and if he is legitimately working, then I'd really like to be happy again. So.
And you work towards that.
Yeah.
You work toward happiness. You rely on each other to help create that, to help build that. And more than anything, you just rely on God.
Yeah.
God is kind of picking up the pieces where it's necessary, but
yeah.
And I mean, obviously this is centered around addiction and betrayal and the choice of one person. But I think it's trauma. It's trauma in a real sense, that and everyone has experienced trauma to some extent or another. And if you think about it, it's like, it takes time. It takes healing, but you can arrive at that place. Does that mean, my heart breaks for anyone who may have ever lost a child. Yeah. Do you ever just forget about that?
Yeah.
Do you ever not feel that pain? Of course not, but can you get to a point where life is enjoyable? I think, because I've seen it. Yeah. I obviously haven't experienced myself. So it's the same type of thing. Can we be happy? Absolutely. Are we? Definitely. Does that mean that everything is 100% perfect all the time? Nope. No marriage is. We work on a lot of things, and we have different things, and everybody does.
Yeah. So just to full blown answer the question end to end is, are we really happy?
Yes.
Yes. I'd like to say we really are. We really are happy, and as happy as anybody wants to be. That's what I'm going to say.
There's a good one.
As happy as anybody wants to be. Like, we all have our really bad days. We all have our stressful moments, and we all have our hard times in marriage. And we still have the things that at the beginning were hard, surrounding his addiction, surrounding intimacy, surrounding all that. And then, of course, all the other underlining issues that are even underneath that, we have all those that knock on our marriage door all the time. It's just, Chris and I, through time and through healing, have gotten to a point where it's very much so like, but we're really happy that we're gonna answer that door, and we're gonna work on that together, and And so I'm very thankful. I'm very, very thankful for where our marriage is at. I'm very, very thankful that we keep putting in the work, because unfortunately my heart really breaks for those that are watching our videos and it hasn't been that way, and one spouse hasn't chosen to work, or maybe they are, and maybe you're holding on for dear life, but they don't know how to start that work. There's so many variables to this, because I really, really thought that I wasn't going to be happy like this ever again. And when it came back, it was such a breath of fresh air. It really felt like I had a mask on for a really long time, and now I can finally breathe again. And I really wish that for everyone. I really do. And so our hearts go out to everyone. We're praying for everyone. And I know that that's a question that is asked so frequently, because that is what people are craving and reaching for. And if it's not there yet, I pray you get there, because it was a couple of years that I didn't feel like the happiness was going to return. I felt endurance, and then I felt happy. But there is no timeline, and there is no destination, and it's different for everyone. So I pray that comes quickly rather than late, and I pray that you find your happiness.
Yes.
So thank you.